Welcome everybody. Welcome back to Monster. I decided to watch Monster today because I just felt like it, and yeah, I'm having a lot of fun watching Monster in general. I just felt like I wanted to dive into this. Let me just adjust the camera a little bit. Sorry about that. Right? Cue one of those videos where a person just grabs the fucking camera. It's like grabs it, is like, you come with me. I love these ones. It's just very, very funny to me always. But yeah, let's get into Monster. A couple of people are back. Lunge is back, which makes me very excited, especially since at this point in time there's more and more hints that it's actually more than just Tenma. Although we don't know when he specifically gets to that conclusion, or if he ever gets to it, because we do very well know that for all of this fucking time because we know that for all this damn time he actually went in and doubled down on Tenma, and he was like, no, Johan is like this thing, like this personality within Tenma and what. And I'm like, Lunge, my boy, please. People keep telling you that it's not just Tenma, that there's physical evidence for it, but you don't even consider the thought, right? And everything that you get that could point in that direction, you reinterpret in your own like viewpoint in a way to be like, okay, yeah, of course it makes sense, it is Tenma, right? Everybody's being fooled by Tenma, and we don't know at which stage in his mindset he is. For Ava, we found it out, right? And she, I mean, at least for now, is out of the story and has her own somewhat semi-conclusion for her arc. It would be cool and interesting to see her later on, once we've passed some time and seen how she developed, if she learned lessons or if she didn't. Because we had that one time where she came back and she didn't learn the lessons, she doubled down, she externalized again. But I mean, of course, it's self-protection in a way. We talked about this in the past. Lunge's whole career is, and his whole like identity, his like view of himself is based on the fact that the conclusions he's gotten to are correct, and that what he's been cooking up and what he's been analyzing has actually been the right conclusion and the right theory for the crime, for the murder, because he prides himself on being a very, very thorough investigator and somebody who's very sharp and gets behind every mystery. But obviously we do have the number one antagonist of all time, which is Johan, who has been able to fool so many people in so many different ways. I think lately I actually read a comment that talked about how these Carlylean, or also Nietzsche's ideas of like what morals are in a grander scheme of like socially constructed society, what they mean to Johan, in that sense that he parodies them, that he sees morals as just labels. And there was this question of, where does that come from, right? Where, like, why do people like Johan do the things they do? And it's very hard to tell, because in most of these cases it's highly individualistic, right? We can't point to a specific kind of abnormality in behavior or a certain kind of pattern of behavior and be like, okay, yeah, that is specifically caused by XYZ. That is rarely the case, right? Even for something as seemingly seemingly not complicated as ADHD or antisocial personality disorder or whatever. Like there's like the child/youth version of that, right? Which is I forget the English name for it, but yeah, there's a multitude of causes for that, because a human being is not something as simple as a machine. And if you look at the public, or at the health system in general, right, like all of the jobs that deal with trying to inspect what is wrong with a human being and how to fix it, there's medicine on the one hand, and there's obviously psychology on the other hand, and both of them are intertwined a lot. But the problem is that in the medical view of sickness and disease and whatnot, there is supposed to be a clear etiological origin, right? Like there's supposed to be a clear like line from the disease, from like the originator, the causal factors of a sickness and the sickness itself, right? You have, for example, heart diseases, right? And there's risks with certain kinds of behaviors, with genetics, and with our own food intake, with the amount of sports we do, with like the drugs we take, right? Like cocaine or just cigarettes, right? And normal tobacco. And there's risk factors involved with that, and we can kind of study these diseases and see what cause, or not what causes them, but which factors in your life contribute to you being more likely to get this disease, to become sick in a certain way. And obviously we can study to a degree the causal influence of something on something else. But if you go into the realm of psychology, the really hard thing about that is most variables we deal with in psychology are constructs, right? They are things that exist within our minds, within our subjective perception of things, and they are not things that exist in a physical manner, right? Obviously, you can tell what the possible risk or like influence of something like cannabis, right, marijuana, on your risk of developing a psychosis is. You can kind of determine that if you study enough people in a systematic way and kind of just find out over like a longitudinal sense of time, right? Like longitudinal studies to look at like thousands or tens of thousands of people, and you look how they develop over time and compare groups that consume these substances and groups that don't, and you see what the outcomes are, right? Like this person has been hospitalized due to psychosis, this person has been hospitalized but not due to psychosis, this person has never been hospitalized, right? You can kind of just differentiate and by knowing well-known factors that could like influence these relationships, which we call moderators, or factors that are like kind of that are the medium on which these factors, like these effects, are transferred, which we call mediators, or by just knowing variables that could confound the results, right, and calculating those out as well, we can kind of get to the conclusion of, yeah, like statistically, yes, this is likely to increase my risk of psychosis by like the amount of like 10 times as much as a normal like healthy human being that never consumed this drug. But it's rarely as simple as that when it comes to complex psychological diseases, because complex psychological diseases are often just an amalgamation of symptoms, right? We call those syndromes, right? Groups of symptoms that occur together very frequently, right, and show similar patterns are called syndromes. And out of those syndromes, we can create a diagnosis if a clinically set amount of parameters is met, for which we then say, yes, this person has all of these symptoms to enough of a degree to warrant us having to initiate treatment to make sure that they're all right, that they get on the road of rehabilitation. Now, anything that is subclinical, that isn't like, that doesn't have to be treated because it's not considered a sickness in the clinical sense, but maybe it's considered a risk factor, or it's considered like unhealthy, we could put those into the category of prevention, right? Like we try to help these people if they come to us and they're like, okay, look, I got enough money to be able to afford like coaching or like other kinds of trainings that I could put myself, or like just a short form therapy that I myself pay for because I want to improve my life in a certain way, right? I want to move towards a certain goal, or I want to like get rid of these unhealthy habits. Like, for example, if you're like, okay, I want to quit smoking, right? There's self-help groups for that. There's like prevention groups. There's all kinds of stuff that sets their sights on that area of prevention. But it is very difficult to say, for example, that a person with schizophrenia has 100%, like that person having schizophrenia goes back to this event X, Y, Z, right? We can identify some like common denominators. There's various theories when it comes to just like what could endanger somebody to develop this specific pattern of symptoms over the course of time. But there's obviously a lot of like life is very complicated, it's complex, right? And our interactions throughout our lives in a social environment and what's happening on a cognitive level, there's so much happening on each step of the way, right? How do we perceive things? How do we think about things? How do we remember and like save those things in our memory? How do we reinterpret them when we remember them? How do we communicate that to other people? How do other people treat us depending on the way we behave? How do we behave in response to that communication we get, the feedback we get from other people, right? It becomes so complex that it's really difficult to kind of just determine the common factors of a disease, as opposed to something like a virus where you're like, okay, yeah, that virus caused that, right? You can be like, okay, you can test it in the blood and it's like the virus is in the blood and we know that virus causes these symptoms in most people, right? There's like not the same symptoms for every person, but it's like a set of symptoms. Some are very frequent, some are less frequent, but they all kind of happen with the same like cause for that. And we know a treatment because we know like if we give you XYZ for your recovery, it helps. Or like if you have a bacterial infection, right? We know that if you get like XYZ, like an antibiotic or whatever, it's going to kill the bacteria and they're going to be gone and you're going to feel better soonish. Now there's downsides to that, but let's not get into that. In the end, like, it's really hard to tell why a person like Johann is the way they are. We can pose some theories, right? Some hypotheses, put down the fact that there's a lot of people who behave similarly to Johann, where it's like psychopathy. Back in the day, you would say like a sociopath, but that term isn't used anymore in modern like psychological vernacular. The core hypothesis here is that through genetics and trauma and various other factors, possibly, right? For some people, it's one. For some, like no, in most cases, it's both genetics and the environment. But for some people, it's more of one or more of the other. Varying degrees from various sources and whatnot. Johann developed probably kind of a lack of empathy, right? And maybe also simultaneously this desire to release tension by doing what he does, which is hurting people by manipulating them. Because so far we haven't seen him kill anybody other than, I think, the dude in the very beginning, like episode 4, where he killed this guy in front of Tenma, right? And that was also had the indirect effect of having a specific effect on Tenma himself, right? So we don't like, I mean, obviously, like the candies, I guess the candies is another thing of him actually killing somebody. But then again, that wasn't him killing somebody outright. It was more of a, I put the candies there and those greedy fucks are going to take them. And that's how it ends up being, right? Like they die from it due to their own idiocy and greed and like their predictable behavior. In a way, that's also manipulation on Johann's part. So, I mean, obviously in Johann, we do see a lack of, I guess, empathy in the way that he very well very well knows intellectually what people are feeling, right? That is the reason why he's so good at manipulating people. He very well knows how to mimic emotions to suit his needs, but the problem, and he himself probably has emotions too, right? Especially probably emotions like anger or fear, which are some of the most like ancient emotions that we human beings have, right? They are being produced in the most like in the oldest parts of our brain. But I would think that Johann probably has a very, very limited empathy when it comes to just the pure original meaning of empathy, which is feeling what other people feel, right? He understands what they feel on a purely informational level, and he can use that to manipulate them, but he does not have that sympathy. No, not sympathy. That's sympathy in a way, right? He doesn't have that empathy to be like, when I see other people hurting, I'm hurting myself, right? I'm feeling that hurt. And I guess that is one of the things. And the other thing is obviously that he has some kind of plan and most probably an urge. I mean, maybe that's what he means when he says there's a monster inside of me, right? Maybe he actually means that for real, right? We don't know what was done to him and Anna/Nina when they were young, when they were like manipulated by that dude in like the mansion and whatnot. Maybe we're gonna find out soon. But like he definitely might have some kind of urge to release that tension through certain acts. And those acts might for him in this specific for his specific case be just that he manipulates people and gets them to hurt themselves or gets them to do certain things, and he gets a kick out of that. I mean, why else would he take a child and manipulate them to possibly commit the thing that YouTube doesn't want to let me say, right? You know what I mean? Like last episode. Yeah, let's get into it. I'm really excited about this episode. Let's see where it leads us. Let's see what we can analyze after that. 3, 2, 1. And we're back with Lunga. Ooh, he's... Yeah, I mean, he has the book, right? Lunga, my boy. All right, Lunga. I didn't know you were based like that. All poetic and shit. Also gotta love that foreshadowing with the man going this, and also like the sign for the 3 frogs. It was there all along. We just didn't know how to contextualize it, I guess. Okay, whose memory is that? Look. Suk. Sorry. Okay, Suk.
夢でも見てたかい、スーク刑事。あなたはルンゲ、ドイツ連邦捜査局の警部だ。連邦捜査局？あ、熱心して結構。私がここへ来たのは君の身柄を拘束するためではない。なかなかいい病室じゃないか。旧チェコスロバキア秘密警察とつながりのあった病院をいくつか当たってここにたどり着いたが、この待遇、旧秘密警察にとって君はよほど重要な人物のようだ。いや、僕はただ君に関する話、すべて知っているよ。 秘密警察と癒着していたゼマン警部が撲殺されたこと、プラハ警察署署長と刑事2名が毒殺されたこと、君を尾行していた2名の刑事が射殺体で発見されたこと、そして君はそれら全ての事件の重要参考人として追われていること。どの事件も状況証拠だけ見れば君が犯人だが。
違う。僕は
Pressuring him.
じゃあゼマン警部が撲殺される前日、取り調べをしたグリマーという長身の男。
グリマーさんも違う。彼はそんなことする人間じゃない。
じゃあ犯人は誰だ？知ってるんじゃないのかね？君は犯人を知ってるんじゃないのかね？
Is that why he thought of Anna?
何言ってるんです？知って
To
た
protect her.
僕はこんな目に遭ってません。いろんな人に裏切られて、僕が犯人に仕立て上げられ、警察に追われる羽目になって、もうゴリゴリだ。もう誰にも裏切られたくない。
君は刑事だろ。刑事なら全てのことに冷静にメスを入れなきゃならない。ささやかな幸せを
He knows the conclusion, but he wants to hear it from him.
もう誰にも裏切られたくないのなら、一番疑いたくない人物まで疑え。
誰の許可を得て面会している？
ボスに合わせろ。バラの屋敷の件で話があると伝える。そうすれば彼は会う気になる。
Alright, Lung.
ドイツ連邦捜査局のルンゲ警部。素性経歴は調べさせてもらったよ。
私も旧大西時代からお噂はかねがね、ランケ大佐。そして今や旧チェコスロバキア秘密警察の実質的な指導者。この時節柄、なかなか苦労の多い大役だ。
ご心配ありがとう。君のように長期休暇の取れる身分が羨ましいよ。2年ほど前、ドイツ民主党党首候補ボルツマン議員の秘書を強引な捜査で自殺に追いやったそうじゃないか。世当たりはうまくしなければいけませんよ。
あなた方は間抜けだ。民主化の際にソフト路線を取り、その実秘密を管理していれば今頃、あなたは影の大統領としてこの国に君臨できた。
But
だが、もはや民衆があなた方に抱いている恐怖は幻想だ。
なるほど。君は賢い。その賢い君が一体何の用だね。
いや、ご存知の通り、長期休暇中なもので、半分遊びなんですがね。探しているんですよ。本当の恐怖の存在を。
for the existence of true terror.
あなた方の作り出した幻想から本物の悪魔が生まれた可能性があるのかどうか。
で、赤いバラの屋敷かね。
あの屋敷にたどり着くまでいろいろと歩き回りました。
The
何しろ
book.
この作家にはたくさんのペンネームがありますからね。名前のない怪物。作者名はエミル・シェーベ。住所はプラハ市内の古いビルの一室。今は他の会社が借りている。クラウス・ポッペ名義の住所は郊外の古い農家。これはもう取り壊されていました。ヤコブ・ファロベック名義もただの貸し事務所。
で、たどり着いたわけか。フランツ・ボナパルタに。
何なんですか、あの屋敷。フランツ・ボナパルタとは何者なんですか？
Was that before he went to the mansion?
彼についてどんなに調べても何も出てこない。となると、あなた方の領域の人物。 旧チェコスロバキア秘密警察の人間だ。
何を知りたいんだ。
あなたが知っていることが知りたいんですよ。
Information.
何も知らない。ただ意識的に忘れようとしていたことがある。私はあの屋敷の存在を忘れようとしていた。だから触れもせず何もいじらず、今もあそこに立っている。あの屋敷に連行された。
Ooh, evidence.
あそこにいた研究員全員がある日消えた。ただそれだけだ。
That's all.
あの壁は何なんですか？
壁？
私は先日あの屋敷の中に入らせてもらいました。誰も足を踏み入れた形跡がない完全な廃屋。ただ2階北側の壁、慌てて何かを封じ込めたかのように塗り込められた壁。
An off wall.
あの壁壊してもいいですか？
This is something that
何を言って
really.
いるんです、ランケ大佐。
死ぬかもしれんぞ。
Long as they're ready to die.
終わりに近づくと、君も私も本当の恐怖を見ることになるかもしれんぞ。
That's what Lunga wants. Is he gonna go with him? Or is Lunga just gonna do it himself? Sounds like shoveling more than... Oh, okay. Bro, why didn't you bring a hammer? You just fucking hammer, dude. A door. Doesn't match up. Ooh, that's interesting cinematography here. With each hit we see like the outside, like the thorn bushes protecting everything, right? The rose bushes. What's in the box? What's in the box? What's behind the door? This is probably gonna explode on me, I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, it doesn't have a handle.
フランツ・ボナパルタですか。懐かしい名前だな。
Ooh, okay.
コーヒーにミルクか砂糖は？
あ、ブラックで結構です。
My man.
何か？
いや、今頃になってフランツ・ボナパルタのファンの方が現れるとは。
モラビア出版社で聞いてきました。ゾバックさん、あなたは長く作家のボナパルタ氏の担当編集者をされていたそうですね。
ええ。ただ、私の担当していたのは、彼がクラウス・ポッペのペンネームを使っていた時でね。
彼がどんな人物
500 pen names.
お聞きしたいんですが。
You didn't know him.
ボナパルタか。彼は仕事の打ち合わせをこの家にやってきてしたものです。そう。ちょうどその椅子にそうやって座っていた。
Oh no, he knows him. Okay.
庭でうちの娘とよく遊んでいたっけ。ただ当時娘が変なことを言ったな。あのおじさん怖いって。
Children saying something like that.
娘も今となっちゃあんな小さな時のことを覚えてないでしょうがね。
彼は当時の政府機関の人間だったんでしょうか？
でしょうね。私はそう思って付き合ってましたよ。 ただ物腰や話し方、着ている服などおよそ旧体制下の政府の要人らしからぬ柔らかさ、そして優雅さがありました。
An elegance. Almost like Johan.
博士号を持っていたし、心理学者でもあった。専
Psychology.
門は脳外科でした。
Brain surgery. Okay.
最後に会ったのはいつだったか。確か81年か82年の夏。
That's a long time.
そう。あの日彼はふらっとこの家にやってきて、新作の話などして、もう妙にすがすがしい顔をしてたな。
新作ってどんな話だったんですか？
The monster without a
怪
name.
物が恋する話だったね。
Ooh, falling in love?
でもそれは美女と野獣と眠り姫を合わせたような話でね。
Okay.
私、ボツにしたんですよ。そしたら帰る間際、ドアのところで、そうだ、こんなのはどうだろうって彼振り返って、絶対開けちゃいけない扉の話、私は聞いた。
The door that must never be opened.
怪物が出てくるのかい？すると彼は、いや、絶対開けちゃいけないから話にならないか。そう言うと笑って帰っていった。彼とは
Sounds very cynical.
最後だ。
Also, he looks very much like Johan. Was he like the father?
何かボナパルタってやつについてめぼしい話は聞けたかい？
Experimenting on his own children?
グリマーさん、ここで何してたんですか？
ああ、いい天気だなと思って。
そうですね。
やっぱり。あ、もしもし。
Bro is gonna get killed.
私は芝生広場のゾ
Oh no, he's gonna report on Tenma?
今うちに訪ねてきた男。どうやらドイツで起きた連続殺人事件の重要参考人じゃないかと思うんだ。ああ、日
Damn.
本人だ。脳外科医のドクターテンマ。
All these meddlesome people. Alright, Lunga. What's behind the door?
消毒液の匂いか。
Did he do surgery in here? But what would he do with brain surgery? Like, did he do something to Johan before Johan even had a brain surgery?
死。何人？ここで何人死んだ？10人、20人、
Hmm.
いや、もっとか。
Alright. And that kind of looks like the mother of Johan and Nina. Hmm. She doesn't look happy.
あの女、スケッチブックの女か。双子の母親か。
Is Johan aware of Lunge? I mean of Lunge right now.
早くしろミロッシュ。やばい、ゴール前から来た。やられた。ミロッシュ。大丈夫か？ミロッシュ、
Oof.
しっかりしろミロッシュ。ナイスディフェンスだミロッシュ。ナイスクリア。ゴールを守ったぞ。やったミロッシュ。
Yeah.
あの笑い方、もう大丈夫だよな。どう思う、ドクターテンマ？
I mean, you never know. He might have troubles later, but you know, like this is
グリマーさん、
you,
ミロー
you
シは
never
他
know.
の子供たちに会っていかないんですか？
俺がサッカー上手くなかった理由が分かったよ。 チームプレーってやつか。
I could have told you that.
これからヤンスーク刑事はどうなるんでしょう。事件の重要参考人として指名手配され、社会的に抹殺されたも同然だ。
仮に自首したとしても、どうやってあいつの無実を証明する？事件現場から立ち去った金髪の女の実在をどう証明する？
No cameras, nothing.
あんたと全く同じ状態なんだ。
A little bit.
一つのことを除いてな。
Is Grimmer gonna turn himself in?
ドクターテンマ、今回の一連の事件、その詳細を知る人物が一人だけいる。ここにな。どうだい？こういうのを警察に送ると。
これは
連続殺人犯からの手紙ってやつだ。犯人以外絶対に知り得ない秘密の暴露ってやつが。
And he's pretending to be the killer.
しかし、こんなもの警察に送ったらあなたは。
グリマーはいつの間にかドイツに舞い戻ってる。警察の手が回るだろうが、グリマーという人間ならうまく逃げられる。だってあいつは元腕利きのスパイだからな。
しかし、一生疑いをかけられて逃げ回ることに。
And also, you're discrediting what Johan actually
だっ
did.
てグリマーなんて人間はもともとこの世にはいないんだ。誰かが勝手に俺に与えたものなんだ。グリマーってやつが一生疑われても俺は全然平気だ。なんてな。ドクターテンマ、どう思う？こんなやり方で。あ、いや、いいんだ。これからあんた例のバラの屋敷に行くんだろ。
え
いよいよあんたの標的も近いかもしれないな。
え。いや、わからない。
Yeah.
無茶をするなと言っても聞く耳はないか。ただ死ぬなよ。
A little bit of a foolish decision, Grimmer.
チェコ国境を越えた時の約束。またどこかで会えたらピクニックしましょう。素晴らしい景色の中でのマス釣り、うまいワインにうまいチーズ。またどこかで。
It's a little bit stupid of him to have that confession going, right? I mean, it's noble to protect Suk, I guess.
これからはずっとあの音に怯えて暮らすわけか。
どうした？ちょっと見せてごらん。ただのかすり傷だ。消毒液だけつけとくか。男の子だろ。我慢しろ。よし、強い子だ。
建造天馬だな。警察だ。署までご同行願いたい。
That is problematic. Damn. Okay. Ooh, we have. Where does that come from? Japanese subtitles, what? I mean, Romanji, of course, but like I'd probably miss the ED if I didn't hear it every time. Like that's the thing, like a lot of people skip the OPs or the EDs or whatnot, but for me, oftentimes it's part of what makes the episode, right? Or the series. It's kind of something you look back on with nostalgia after you're done. Because in many of these cases, it's just, yeah, that's just how it is. All right, let me speed this up a bit and go all the way back. It's some very interesting developments. Lunge looking into the whole thing and actually being more active in this than Tenma at this moment. I don't know what Lunge is gonna do when he finds out that Tenma has been arrested. But for sure he is getting more and more into this, like locked in on Johan and the twins and what all of that has to do with the murder cases that he's been investigating for all this time. I do love how what he's doing here. Like he's first of all, he's establishing the authority. He's like, I'm the police, like German police, whatever. And then he's like, don't worry, I'm not here to arrest you. And then like, I'm here to I want information, right? But what he doesn't want specifically, like, he doesn't need the information. He's just putting like a little breadcrumb into Suk's head, or rather he's shoving him a little bit into the right direction, because Lunge already kind of partially knows what could be like the suspects here and what could be like at the root cause of that, and he knows Suk isn't the one, but he's putting it down and pressuring him, being like, you're the prime suspect by all accounts, right? You could, like, with all the information that the police has, you did it, right? And then Suk's like, no, I didn't do it, like, whatever, right? And with that, he already kind of like prevents that if he's poking and prodding at stuff like Anna, Johan, then Suk isn't gonna have that response of no, no, it's me, right? Because that's not something he can say after he said it's not him. But also, he's like also establishing that in a way to say, look, who could be responsible? I think you got the answers. And I think you need to question yourself and who you are protecting, right? Who you don't want to think about it possibly being. And he's just leaving him with that statement. He's like, face reality and do it. Again, always beautiful shots, right? This here, for example, where we are like just like looking up at these apartments kind of. And I love these corner apartments are very, very cool just to look at on like a city level. But yeah, I feel like the last couple of episodes, a lot of the material we've seen is a lot sharper. Maybe that's just me, but like for me, that it feels a lot sharper in a lot of the shots. Not all of them, some of them are a little bit fuzzy, but most of them are a lot sharper, and I'm really enjoying that. Though sometimes you feel like you just zoomed in, right? But I guess that's just like because the original resolution wasn't as high. And now that we use like the upscaled resolution, it's a lot harder to kind of make these very close-up shots that maybe weren't drawn that way, but just zoomed into a bigger picture seem less fuzzy. Either way, like this guy just wants to forget. He doesn't want to think about it because like the reality could be too horrible for him. So he's just, I guess this is not a protection of your own assets in a way. It's a protection, also funny little mistake in that shot where we do see like the coffee cup being halfway painted with the color of the table. Very, very funny. But yeah, it's him protecting kind of his own sanity, right? Him being like too afraid to prod further because he knows like even he has done a lot of fucked up shit, but he knows he doesn't want to know what happened there and how it happened. But Lunge wants in, he's like, I want to break down that door. I want to find it out because I want to see that face of terror. I think it's very interesting that Lunge is actually talking about a devil now and about terror. Be that either because he felt it himself, like many people who have witnessed whatever Johan was doing, or because he's parroting people who talk to him about the about Johan-related things, and by parroting them, he actually unlocks kind of that door of those people who felt that terror themselves, being like, oh shit, this guy also knows what we're talking about, right? He actually knows what's behind that and he wants to find out more. So it kind of gives more credence to what he's doing. And people are like, okay, you know what? I don't want to have anything to do with that shit. But you do, right? Okay, like, you go ahead, you do your stuff if you feel like it. But I ain't gonna do it, right? Like that's most of the time that's the approach of people. So they're like just like, okay, this guy is something else. He doesn't like, he's not terrified. He doesn't mind. So let him do his thing, right? He might be equally as terrifying as the person that I don't want to know anything about, right? Again, cool cinematography on the shots where we just like blow that wall open, and we have those quick shots to the thorns, which are almost like a mesh that is protecting the mansion, right? It's like locking it up from the outside, like a fence or something, and we break that protection. And also really, really cool shots in general, like this one kind of slowly panning up onto like the main building and having like the looking through the grass, kind of like a bird or a little animal that notices all of these noises that are coming from the mansion while nobody else is here, right? It's like a classic when you have like a building or like a location that is in absolute isolation, and you have like a little animal witnessing the true horrors or like things happening inside the mansion that are something groundbreaking or spectacular or horrible, right? And you just like, you set the scene of the shot of like the isolated mansion. Nobody is here, right? Nobody knows what's happening here, and you hear the noises on the inside, and you as the viewer actually knows what's happening there. It's very classic cinema, I guess. Now, I don't know why it's classic cinema, why this is so impressive and why it's well done. It just feels good. It feels right. It feels interesting. Now that we changed to Tenma, where we're like having that conversation about this dude, and it's like, my daughter thought he was scary, and I'm like, bro, like, if your daughter is not somebody who is easily scared of everybody around them, those people exist as well, right? Those kids exist. They have a certain temperament where they're like more fearful, and they take like 10-15 minutes to warm up to people before they really interact with them, and then they interact with them pretty normally, right? Or people who are shy, like completely shy and sheltered into them, like drawn into themselves, who are really afraid of people in general, right? That's kind of a trust issue, I feel like, and it has probably something to do with how the relationship of them is to their like mothers and fathers and whatever, and to like their significant person of connection in early childhood. But other than that, there's people who have temperaments who are like more fearful of other people from the beginning of the interaction on and whatnot. But like the daughter saying he was scary is already a red flag to me. If I was the father, I'd be like, but back in the day you didn't really see that, right? It's like, ugh, you silly kid, right? Like, this guy isn't scary, he's a nice dude, right? Because you trust yourself more and your ability to judge people, but oftentimes children can kind of see through some of those facades, right? And be like, oh, I don't know, right? This person's kind of giving bad vibes. Children, teenagers, they kind of have a little bit more of a feeling for that sometimes. And sometimes we adults, just by getting through osmosis and just getting used to the world in general, the harsher realities of the world, we kind of get numb to that. We kind of like lose the ability to differentiate that. Or although there are some people who are really good at like spotting these things, right? I don't know if it's like specifically empaths, but I would seem like, in my opinion, probably is also empaths to a degree, because they can kind of put themselves into the shoes of somebody else more easily. But I guess it's also possible that those fall prey to them more, because like they can be hooked more with like sob stories and like played emotions. Not sure. I haven't read like literature on that. That would be a very interesting thing to explore maybe. But yeah, he looks kind of like Johann. He ain't gonna lie, he looks kind of like an older Johann. So I'm wondering if he was the actual father, and if he like did experiments there. We know like brain surgery, that's what he was associated with, though I don't quite know how we are supposed to like read that, if that's if like I don't know how far to spin the theories, let me say it like that. There's probably certainly out there very conspiratorial theories where we go into the realm of he like did neurosurgery on healthy people to actually extract part of the brain and see what happens, right? Stuff like that. I mean, more horrible things have been done in the early years of like psychiatry, of like when it was still common to take people who are mentally ill and drill holes into their skulls, which is like absolutely horrifying by modern standards, but like, and absolutely unscientific, by the way. Like, there's, right? But those are like the more conspiratorial, like out there crazy theories where I'm like, okay, I don't know how scientific that would be in relation to what Johann becomes, right? If we try to establish some kind of story on Johann becoming that way because certain parts of his brain got altered or cut out or whatever, and we have like super out there supernatural theories where it would like be brain transplantation kind of deal. Where it's like, oh no, bro, took his own brain and put it into like little kids, and now he lives inside there as like a separate entity, right? Like, we can go really far with that, but I don't think that's the story Monster wants to tell. I don't think like that's the story we want to establish, because obviously it is possible within the realm of fiction, but like Monster feels too grounded for that. So I think we're going more in the direction of Johann had an issue to begin with, and he experimented with him, be that on like a psychological level, hypnosis, whatever, or also on like a brain surgery level, right? Like somebody like a kid who has an aggression problem, and you like just kind of just like this try to disable areas of the brain that are responsible for that, and then you get like complete personality shifts. We have that famous single case of Phineas Gage, who was like a minor in the US, I think it was, who like through an accident got like a metal pipe through his entire skull, and survived the whole thing and like existed normally after that, but people noticed that his entire personality shifted, and he was like, he lost a lot of like his control over his emotions and impulses and all of that stuff, because that's like the part of the brain that got damaged, right? And that's like a very famous study in like, because people were able to study that and look at his behavior and his case in like the ancient parts of psychology. But yeah, I don't know, maybe he experimented with something like that. The only reason why I'm bringing that up is obviously that mention of neurosurgery that we talked about. I also find it very interesting that we have like him supposedly being some kind of neurosurgeon or something like that, and being involved with Johann and possibly responsible for him and Anna and whatever happened to them. And then we have later on, we do have Tenma, who is also a neurosurgeon, who saves Johann's life, and then we have that like connection here that is very interesting. So I wonder what will become of that. But he looks very much like an older Johann for fucking sure. So I'm pretty sure that he and Johann's mom did the thing, and that they are his children, and he possibly experimented on his own children, which is pretty fucked up. But yeah, Grimmer deciding not to interact with the children, probably to protect them, because he was like, damn, right, I dragged them into all of this, and they investigated on their own, and one of them almost died because of that. We have this dude being way too nosy with like, oh, I remember this face, let me look into the news. Oh yes, this is this German dude who was searched, like, who people looked for like not 20, but like a couple of years ago in case of serial murders. Let me just report that to police. Bro, stop, you're doing more harm than good. But yeah, Lunga uncovering all of this. I love how we unveil like certain parts of the room bit by bit, and Lung is kind of taking us through the ropes. He's like, there were people there and they probably died, right? That's what he's reading from like the floor and whatever happened there. Maybe like they could have died in operations, like legitimate operations, the doctor trying to help them. They could have died like in operations of like the doctor experimenting on them, or they could have died as like kind of torture or other forms of like war criminal kind of behavior. We don't know. And then we unveil the last piece, which is like this portrait where Lung is like, it looks exactly like the portrait in the book. Is this like the mother of the twins? And I think like probably Lunge is a smart enough guy that he made the possible connection to Anna, because I think he has seen her when she's older, right? Late, like in between there, like I think she was at a police station in Germany at some point, and Lunge investigated that and tried to spin that in Tenma, and she was like, no, it's not Tenma, but he didn't believe her. I think so, right? I think so. So he must have seen her, so he must make that connection, be like, okay, it looks kind of like that girl, right? But yeah, I don't know if he makes that connection. Maybe he makes it later. This kind of warms my heart, like it really does, that he was kind of out of it and just going through the motions and being like walking towards the goal post, and then the ball came his way and just knocked him cold, and everybody is running to him like, shit dude, are you okay? And he's like, they see he's okay, and it's like, damn, that was a save, right? Even if he wasn't like consciously doing it, he saved it from a goal happening, and then he's like getting all that positive reinforcement. It really warms my heart that there's like, and he recognizes, yeah, like obviously there's things to live for, right? Like my friends, my like the fellow orphans, whatever, right? Like it helps a lot sometimes if you have peers that are really nasty to you. It helps to have family that is really strong in supporting you, and the other way around, it helps too, right? Like that you have peers who are there for you, right? Like blood brothers kind of deal, where you're like really you're in the same boat, you feel the same feelings, you can talk about your stuff with other people who kind of have a shared experience with you. And it really helps to have those positive feelings of friendship, of camaraderie, of whatever, right? There's so many stories of people who grew up in not even without parents, or not even with like horrible parents, but just in poverty and like hard times and whatnot. And for them, like their friends were their extended family, right? Those were the people they spent most of their time with, running around in the streets, getting up to some mischief and whatnot. And yeah, sometimes it goes bad. You hang with the wrong crowd and become a criminal or whatever. That's possible too, but it's also possible to just like get carried by that de facto second family that you have, and growing up together and just helping each other and supporting each other, and like seeing each other grow up and going through similar struggles maybe as well. It's a really great thing to see that after, especially after last episode, that what he went through, regardless of how it was directed, where I was like, it didn't really catch me, but I can understand the principal idea and go from that and be like, okay, that's a really great follow-up to see that, right? That impact that a single day or a single action can have on somebody in everyday life. So I pose that idea to all of you out there. If you're going through life, be nice to people, right? Show them positivity. Carry the positivity that you want to have into the world, because that is what keeps us alive. This is what keeps us looking up. This is what keeps us dreaming. And I think that's very important for everybody out there, to keep that positivity and to keep looking up, because that by being that positive influence in your own life, and by carrying that out into the world, you lift other people up with you as well, right? I don't think it's like very productive to drag other people down with you. It's better to lift each other up and fly to better heights, right? Fly higher than you ever have before. And I think that's a great attitude to have, right? But yeah, this last one, this really hurts me. Grimmer being basically like, I'm gonna confess and then I'm gonna slip away, and right? But being on the run for the rest of his life, just in order to make sure that Suk isn't gonna get into this. I think it's a noble idea, but I also think like it's not gonna help that much, because Suk's gonna get into that anyway, right? Like Suk's gonna be like, no, Grimmer wasn't at fault here, and first of all, he would be suspicious for just saying that, right? But also then we do have Suk actually probably going after that and trying to prove as much as he can that Grimmer is innocent. And by doing that, obviously, getting himself into more danger and possibly also opening the door for him being like suspected again, which isn't great. But yeah, and then we have the negative effect of Tenma, and Tenma always being the guy who's like, come on, let me help you, right? Like, if he hadn't stopped here, the police would have probably tried their approach, but they wouldn't have surrounded him immediately. I think it's also very tragic how the one policeman's like, come here, child, he was about to abduct you or something like that, right? Like, he's like, I need to protect you from the dangerous criminal. Despite like Tenma not being at fault at all. I do wonder how this is gonna continue, what becomes of Tenma next time. But yeah, let's get into the next episode, shall we? I like to do doubles these days. Pause. Not like that. Nah, I can't stop after that. Let me get into Monster episode 51. A monster's love letter. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about like the monster's love letter. That was the possibly or supposedly unpublished book of this guy who is heavily associated with Johann and his mother and whatnot. So I do wonder if if he sees himself as the monster, and if his like changing identities has something to do with him like writing that book, like the monster who adopts different names and then gets a name and but nobody knows the name anymore and whatnot, like all of this, and he put that into the story, right? Like kind of like dealing with his past sins or whatever. Maybe also just through meeting Johann and Anna's mother, he kind of like learned to reevaluate who he is and what he did in his life, and he regrets some of that. Or it's more just like, I'm a monster, but and I don't think it's wrong what I did, but I fell in love and the person I love doesn't like that, or whatever kind of thing that is. But a monster's love letter definitely is going to be what this is about. So let's start this up again and just get into it. But first, I think I gotta like ignore my fat ass too, in case I accidentally don't cut this out because it can happen. I think it happened in one of the arcane reactions where I was like, okay, cut that out, and I didn't cut it out, and I'm like, no. But you know how it is. Unscripted. I'm real, okay? Alright, 3, 2, 1. Is that like Carl's mother?
泣いているのか。
友達からの手紙。大親友なの。
Best friend.
15歳の時、2人で一緒にチェコ国境を越えようとしたけど、
Ooh, okay.
彼女は捕まり、プラハに連行された。
And that's how they got separated.
元気でやってるって。親や兄弟よりも私のことをよく知ってる本当の友達。この手紙を出すのも政府の厳しい検閲の中どれだけ苦労したか。もし会える機会があったとしたら、ここを訪ねてくださいって。チェドック橋、3匹のカエル。
It's the 3 frogs.
帰りたいな、プラハに。
マルゴット。うん。
本名で呼んで。今日だけは本当の名前で呼んでほしいの。私はヘレンカ・ノバコバ。今日だけはマルゴット・ランガーじゃないわ。
And he knows, or he didn't know her real name. Okay. Still think it's crazy that he paid that woman who pretended to be her. But I guess like it's more like blackmail, right? Because she knew the facts and then she was like, you don't want this to come out.
ライザーベルガー製薬の株をいい時期に売却してね。それで狂った科学の株をちょいと買ったら。
Bro's talking about his stock trades.
それでとりあえずお祝いだって言うんで。
Alright, how you doing, Doc?
ほんの少し。呆れた人だな。一杯だけだよ。何度も言うが、アルコール依存症というのはほんの少しでもバカ飲みしても同じなんですよ。紹介したアルコール救済の会にも行ってないようだし。ところで先生、秘密守れるよな。実は見てほしい女がいるんだ。また愛人ができたんですか？いや、それがひどいアル中なんだ、その女も。今外で待ってるから、ちょっと見てやってくれないか。急に言われてもダメです。ちゃんと予約を取ってください。ちょっとだけでいいんだけどな。今から往診なんです。しかも乗客でね。
Ooh, okay.
行ってきましたよ。いやー、実にいいところですな。プラハ城、ゴシック様式の見事なカテドラル。夜の旧市街広場のライトアップの美しいこと。まるでおとぎの国のような。
チェドック橋には行ったのかね？
もちろん、あなたに言われた通りにね。そして、見つけましたよ、3匹のカエルもね。
They're on the case.
行ったのかね？
いや、誰も言いませんでした。正直な話、あそこに行っても何もわからなかった。天馬はもちろん、ニナもディーターも、誰の行方もわからなかった。
これを幸運をもたらすウサギの足だ。それを生まれてくる私たちの子供に。マルゴット、いやヘレンか、私は
ありがとう。
Very interesting how some people can just make us weak, right? But also strong in a way. Right? Or some people who don't seem to have a heart
実は私
actually have
ド
one.
イツから行方不明の女性を探してやってきました。ご存知ありませんか？マルゴット・ランガー、いやヘレンカ・ノバコバーという女性を。
ヘレンカ。
And that
そ
was
れはそうと、
Johan's
シュ
mother.
ガートさん。息子さんのカールから聞きましたよ。あなたまた食事もろくに取られなくなったそうじゃないですか。あなた、あのミンヘン大学図書館の火災事件で身も凍るような恐ろしい体験をした。
Or starving.
その恐怖感がまだ拭えないのはわかります。しかしあなたにはカールというあんなに素晴らしい息子さんがいるんだ。もう何も心配することはない。もっとしっかり食べて。
怪物、あの怪物がいる限り、私はなぜあの怪物はあんなに詳しくマルゴット・ランガーについて知っていたのか。私とマルゴットの
Off that shot.
息子カールよりもはるかに知っていた。親兄弟よりもマルゴットのことをよく知っているプラハの親友。手紙をやり取りしていた女。
80年頃、あなたは行方知れずになったマルゴットを探し、プラハに行き、その女性に会われた。
わあ、その女ならマルゴットから何か連絡を受けているはずだと思った。
But she didn't.
ところが、彼女は何も知らなかった。私たちは戸口でしばらくマルゴットの思い出を語り合った。その時、聞いていたんだよ。私たちの話を。誰が？じっと聞いていたんだ。あの女の影から双子が。
Hmm.
はい、どうぞ。そちらにかけて。タルバッハさんからの紹介。
Wait, is that Eva?
あなたも酒をやめられ
It
ない。
looks like Eva.
まあ楽にして。とりあえずちょっとした世間話でもするつもりで。
先生、
どうしたメレスさん。今カウンセリングの最中。
テレビで天馬が、ドクター天馬が。
ちょっと失礼。
繰り返します。チェコ警察はプラハ市内で潜伏中のドイツ・デュッセルドルフ・アイスラー記念病院医師3名毒殺事件、
Hmm.
ハイデルベルクの
Alright, and we're back in the
ポ
presence.
ルトナー夫妻殺害事件、ハイデルベルク城通り魔殺人事件の重要参考人日本人医師健三天馬の身柄を5日午後拘束したと発表しました。なお詳しい情報は入っておらず、身柄拘束がどういった状況で行われたかなど詳細は警察の発表があり次第順次
困ります。こちらはオフィスですので、診察室でお待ちください。エヴァ・ハイネマン様。健三。
どうも皆さん遅くなって申し訳ない。
We're back.
10歳若返ったように見えますよ。
孫の相手ばかりしてるからね。
フーバー君はどうなの？
はい、なんとか最終学年に進級できました。ケイファーさんこそご活躍のようですね。
ハリウッドに招かれた脚本家と知り合いだって自慢しちゃったわ。
いや、たまたまあっちのプロデューサーの目に留まっただけですよ。頭が冴えちゃって新作の構想がどんどん湧いてくるんです。
そりゃ頼もしい。
Wait, who are these people again?
あの時の頭の手術が成功していなかったら今頃。
Ooh, okay.
孫と一緒に公園を散歩することもできなかった。あの席。
いつもあの人は一人でお茶を飲んでいた。
他に医者たちが集まるカフェがあるのに、アイスラー記念病院の裏手のこのカフェで。
私ら患者が店に入ると、
あの席で顔を上げて
にっこり笑って手を振ってくれた。
Interesting. All patients of Tenma.
あんな優しい先生がこんなことするわけない。みんなに集まってもらったのはこのためだ。いや、今日ここに来られなかった人たちもドクター天馬の元患者なら同じ気持ちのはずだ。
Believe in his innocence.
ミルケルのじいさんが倒れた。
Not Merkel.
だが今ちょいと取り込み中なんだ。悪いがそこで待っていてくれ。はいよ。
ドクター天馬はそんなことやっちゃいないよ。
ついて聞いてくれよ、おふくろ。
早く言っておやりよ、あんた。
ああ、しかしな、ペトラ。
しかしも何もないだろう。ドクター天馬が無実の罪で捕まったんだよ。あの人がいなかったら私は今頃この世にはいない。ドクター・シューマンは女房の命の恩人がどんな目にあっても知らぬふりかい。
この村はどう？
Interesting how we're catching up to all of these
この
people.
村には医者は私一人だ。私がいなくなったらこの村の連中はどうなる？
ごちゃごちゃ言ってないで。あんた生きたいんだろう。早く天馬を助けにお行きよ。
What can he do
患
though?
者がいたら医者はそこを離れるわけにはいかん。ドクター天馬もそうするはずだ。
先生、早く見て
I respect that decision.
今準備してるんだから待ってなさい。
いつまで待たせんだよ。文句言うなって。ドクター最近ちゃんとした医学生やりながらやばいのにここで無許可の診療やってくれてんだからよ。闇の中にいると闇に沈み込んでしまう。光を当てるんだ。君なら必ずなれる。君なら必ずいい医者に。
ドクター天馬。
Reset.
さあ、診療始めるわよ。
Alright.
最初の患者さん入って。
弁護士を。
はい。しかしまだドイツのどこに天馬の身柄が移送されるのかわからないんです。
それぞれの州の弁護士を選択してくれ。最高の刑事弁護人をな。
はい。
State doesn't matter though.
どうしか
ことしかできない気がする。あの怪物を消し去れるのは。とりあえず味方の数だ。
ドクター天馬の元患者たちに呼びかけましょう。
我々一人一人の力は小さくてもそれを合わせれば。
よし、早速アイスラー記念病院にも協力を求めて救済会を。
無理ですよ。アイスラー記念病院はそんなもんに協力なんかしやしません。
Who are you?
さっきから聞いてました。泣けてくるお話でした。でもね、
I knew it. I knew it.
どうやって天魔の無実を証明するの？
ドクター・ベッカー。
それなりの動機はあるし、逆にアリバイはない。物的証拠だって上がってるって話じゃないですか。頭数揃えてガヤガヤと騒いだところで、どんなに優秀な弁護士を雇ったところで、どのみち天魔の無実を証明するのは不可能なんですよ。残念ですがね、あんな優秀な医者が。なんとも残念だ。
I mean, you were his friend.
あんた、天魔とどういう関係なんだ？エヴァ・ハイネマンさん、どこのどなたか知らんが、私はこれから天魔を助けに行くんだ。物見湯さんのご同行ならご遠慮願いたいな。エヴァ・ハイネマン。ハイネマン？ハイネマンって、あんたもしかしてデュッセルドルフ・アイスラー記念病院で殺害されたハイネマン院長の。
ドクター天魔、私の人生を崩壊させた男よ。でもね、私しかあの男を救えない。見ちゃったの。
何を？
Still Eva.
建造天魔がこの一両日中にもドイツに強制送還されることが決定しました。移送先は一連の事件の発端となったデュッセルドルフとみられ、今後取り調べの後、本人立ち会いのもとで現場検証。
そんなはずない。この人は、このドクターは。
ドクター天魔だ。スーク、お前の命の恩人だよ。このドクターの応急処置のおかげだ。ドクター天魔も身に覚えのない罪を着せられている。お前と同じ境遇ってわけさ。
命の恩人、僕と同じ境遇。
君は刑事だ。刑事なら全てのことに冷静にメスを入れなきゃならない。
Look at my boy.
誰にも裏切られたくないのなら、一番疑いたくない人物まで疑え。
All a little bit too convenient, isn't it? So.
とにかくプラハ署に行ってドクター天魔と話をしなくちゃ。
探したぞ、スーク。
ブラジャク刑事、ストランスキ刑事、僕は。
もう逃げなくてもいいんだ。
ずいぶん大変な思いをしたな。疑いは晴れたよ。
署に手紙が届いた。
これがコピーだ。
手紙？
犯人しか知り得ない全事件に関する詳細な告白文だ。お前の嫌疑は全て晴れたよ。
誰がその手紙を？
グリマーと名乗っている男だ。
何ですって？
早速重要参考人としてグリマーを指名手配した。
ちょっと待ってください。
もう安心しろ、スーク。
ゼマン警部殺害事件も所長毒殺事件も特別専任チーム射殺事件もこれで全て解決だ。
Not the result he wanted. He's gonna feel a lot of guilt about that, even though he's not guilty, of course, of anything. Love that shot through the plants. Why are we ramping up the music? What's happening here? Hmm. We're not gonna see this, are we?
いや、部長、ちょっと観光をね。
まったく何をとぼけてるんだ。
とぼける？何の話です？
いい加減にしろ。ニュースを聞いてないとは言わさんぞ。
ああ、ドクター天馬逮捕のことですね。
おめでとう、ルンゲ。
は？
君は知っていたんだろ？天馬がプラハに潜伏していること。
Dong is like, shut the fuck up.
地道な捜査がついに実を結んだわけだ。我々ドイツ連邦捜査局は早速チェコ警察に連絡を取り手続きを済ませた。
He's gonna tell me he's innocent, and he's like, what the fuck, Logan?
この事件の担当である君が直接指揮を取り移送したまえ。とにかくよくやったルンゲ。おめでとう。
私以外の誰かを派遣してください。
あ？
プラハはいいところですよ。何しろ今私は休暇中なもので。
おい、ルンゲ、何を言ってるんだ。おい。
Look is like, so long.
天馬に面会させてくれ。
何度も言ってるでしょう、面会はでき
I
ない。
love this.
理由を言え。この国は民主化したんだろうが。
もう天馬はドイツに強制送還されるんですよ。
その前にちょっとだけでも。
無駄足だったみたいね。わざわざプラハ組んだりまで来たけど。
頼む、一目だけでも。出なさい。こっちだ、来なさい。
我々が取り調べの時手こずる人間はどんな人間だと思う？何を言っても表情が変わらない人間、何も喋らない人間、そういう人間だ。
Oh, he didn't even notice him at first, and then he was like, what?
怪物から美女への恋文、まるで小説の草稿だ。君のことをずっと見ていた。君のすべてを食い尽くすために見ていた。だが、君のすべてが私を侵食した。
Ooh, okay.
崩れかかった私が君にはどのように見えただろうか。崩れかかった私に君が与えてくれたもの。君は美しい宝石を残してくれた。あの永遠の命のような双子。一番罪なことは人の名を奪い去ること。名前を取り戻そう。君に名前を返そう。君の名はアンナ。今はただ悲しい。悲しい。悲しい。悲しい。存在する。あの部屋でたくさんの人間が死に、そしてとてつもない怪物が生まれた。
Sorry, I didn't put it together yet. I didn't put it together yet. I mean, so her name was Anna? Like the mother? So the daughter was named the same name as the mother? It gets more and more confusing, to be honest. What did they do to all of these people? How does he return the name to somebody he's taken the name of? And what does he mean with taking the name, right? Is it a... I have no idea. Absolute cinema. Not really, but I just raised my hands. It was like, I needed to say it. No, I don't know. I guess it's still all too vague to really interpret it, right? To make like a get to a conclusion or whatnot. Really nice that we have that throwback to all of the things that have been happening here, right? Like Margot Langer, I think it was, right? And I forgot his name, but like our business guy, and them like having like an actual loving relationship, and him knowing all of these details about her and actually searching for her at some point in time, and meeting Anna, I guess, meeting the mother of Johann in the process. And we check back with Dr. Reichwein and his entire like thing here, where he's still in contact and they're all trying to figure this out, right? Beautiful scene set up with like the perfect symmetry between the two of them standing together, and like them having like a tearful goodbye with one another. And we slightly move with the frame, but we don't move fast enough, and as a result of that, she backs down more into the left side of the frame, while he gets like he moves more into the center of the frame, which is a really nice symbolism and like showing pretty clearly like where the movement is going, what the meaning of the scene specifically is. We have the heel turn. And then we go to Prague, go back when he actually was still a little bit younger and was searching for her. And we do have Johann and Anna's mother, who almost looks exactly like Nina, just like with the lipstick a little bit differently. And I think the hair is slightly like different, almost looks a little bit more like Johann when he's disguised as Anna. Nice transition, like the mind's eye kind of deal, right? Like how we slowly transition from one into the other. Also very interesting how we set up this shot, where we do have Reichwein almost out of the picture and him being center in the picture, because the attention is on him and what happened to him and what he's like remembering and thinking about. It's very important. We look out the window as we talk about Carl, which is a really cool like cinematic trick to be like, yeah, we're still in this room, we're still having that conversation, but we're kind of like as if we're peeking out talking about that person over there, right? Like that's very close by. The monster and all of that, and we have like, I immediately knew it's Ava because she has a very distinct design, of course, and we've seen her a lot of times in the beginning of the series. And then the news break in, and everybody literally, or not literally, but like almost everybody whose lives got touched by Tenma, who are convinced that Tenma is innocent, right? We do see their reactions to the news that he's been captured, and some of them are trying to do something, right? So trying to like protest that he's been arrested and that he's innocent. Some people can't do anything because they have their responsibilities, right? As the doctor said, like this is what Tenma would do as well, right? Helping the people in need right here. As much as I want to help, how much can I really help? Like as a doctor, if I go there and I'm like, hey, I'm a doctor, by the way, I think he's innocent, does that have any credence, right? Can I do anything? Is it not more important that I take care of my people? And maybe if the opportunity presents itself, I could obviously try to do something, like something that has to do with money, or if he comes here, if he gets transferred here, maybe stand in for that and not rush off to Prague immediately when I'm maybe not able to do anything. And the same with our young doctor here, who's studying hard, right? Is she gonna throw away her entire like existence here and her like study? Probably. Maybe she has exams and she has like tests to do and she has things to study and has people to help. Obviously that's taking precedence, and Tenma would want it and wouldn't want it any other way. But at the same time, we do have people that he made friends with, that he formed alliances with, Carl here and his father, who are very influential, very rich, who could maybe hire like lawyers to actually help with that, right? He's like, if anybody can stop him, it's him. And I think it's very interesting that that he's like hire a lawyer for every state, it almost feels like we assume that lawyers work the same way they do in the US, where every state needs like its independent lawyer. But I think most lawyers are actually cross-state here in Germany, because most of the law is the same everywhere. There's like little, like obviously we do have different, like in some cases we do have different laws, but most of the time it's just laws that are designed to organize how like social structures work, right? Like help organizations or education system and whatnot. That's like, we have federalism in that sense, right? That every state has their own like law. But I think like the criminal law is actually more just for the same for the entire nation. So a lawyer would not have to study for the specific laws in every state to actually be viable for. But maybe he just wants the best person, and in that sense you could have a nose up here and there, but I think it's not as pronounced as it is in America. In Germany it's like cross nation, especially if it's criminal law, if it's about murder or other stuff, there's like barely a difference, if any, right? I'm not a lawyer, obviously, I don't know the specific, like, but I think it's like 99% the same. Right? Same with like taxes and everything else. There's just like little differences when it comes to, I think, like drug laws, for example, with the amount you can carry with you without it being like illegal and whatnot and stuff like that. That might be a difference that exists in Germany, but not as much. Right? Love like the shot to the empty chair. And who would have thought ever that Reichwein and Eva are sitting opposite of one another going towards Tenma, and Eva being like, he ruined my life. I think it's very interesting that she holds on to that, he ruined my life, but that like her conclusions became like turned into something different, right? Her conclusion is more like, I'm the only one who can save him, which I kind of doubt, but also like she is in a prime position to save him because she is kind of related to one of his supposed murder victims, right? So I guess she finds some irony in that, because she always was always searching for that. Like, he was always searching for that reason for him to rely on her again or forgive her or whatever. And now she possibly has. I don't think she has it, because like Tenma maybe wouldn't even accept it. But I think like she had a statement that she made that kind of criminalized Tenma, made Lunge and the rest of the police able to actually go after him. And she could retract that statement, I think. I mean, she could have always retracted that, I think. But I don't know how the specifics are and how the story wants to push that. So I'll be very curious what she thinks, why she specifically thinks she's in a unique position to save him. But we definitely, as the audience, we can say there is some truth to that, surely, right? And we know why she laughs, right? Very ironic, like very sarcastically, why that is kind of an irony to her. And I think like her mindset has turned on accepting that Tenma is not the kind of person who would do that, right? Even if she maybe wished that it was as simple as that, right? Because then she would just have one person to hate and she would get her redemption. Or she would get her, like, revenge now. But I do think, like, she knows, she realized a long time ago that it's not that easy. And obviously she realized and accepted that she is still kind of into him, right? Like, even if it's like a past kind of thing, like a past attachment kind of thing, it is something that she's still clinging on to, and she can't let go, because for her, much like with a lot of other people who met Tenma in their day, who've gotten to know him to a degree, she knows that he's not a bad person, as much as she would like him to be, right? Because it's very easy to push every fault of her life onto him, but she can't anymore in good conscience, I think, take that anger and frustration she has regarding Tenma, because he rejected her, right? And because all of that the things that happened between them, and because she kind of betrayed him, right? All of these complicated feelings of that anger and frustration and also partially guilt that she feels. And she can't just push that onto him as a person and be like, it's all your fault, right? She still upholds that to a degree, right? But there's this cognitive dissonance of that. She realizes it's not that simple, and she realizes he's not that kind of person. Now the question is just what that, like, how that translates into her action in reality, because obviously Ava was never a person who could be completely honest with herself, even though she's taken massive strides in that regard, I think, in the meantime, right, in the process, and in the time she was off screen, and also like the last time we saw her. Also glad to see that she's back on her feet and she's walking again normally. Suk, my boy, I'm super sorry, right? I'm super sorry. You kind of like drew the short straw here, but like I know this is gonna fuel him to actually like put his heart and soul into the cause and actually try to clear up this mystery and help to solve all of this. I was wondering why, like, in this shot when Lung is walking towards the door, we actually not focus, but we actually have the background suspiciously in our view, but nothing happens and nobody's to be seen there, so maybe it's just like focusing on Lunge. Because we didn't follow Lunge with the camera, right? With him we held steady on the scene as Lunge was slowly getting closer and closer to the camera, which is an unusual shot, I feel. He's going towards the picture, and we do have like the love letter the love letter of a monster kind of deal. Really cool how we see like Lunge just loosening up his tie and being like, dude, whatever, right? Tenma, I saw it, right? He doesn't care enough about it, but he knows that Tenma is not the root cause at this point in time. And I think it's nice that we actually see that, right? He's not thinking, oh yeah, we got Tenma, that's it, right? He wants to solve the mystery, and for that we still need to know. But we don't know what's in that damn letter, right? Or we do, kind of, right? Like we know the pros, but we don't know the additional information that Lunge might have, or the theory he put together. It's very interesting, very poetic. I've been watching you all this time, a little bit stalker-esque, but also just like if it's mutual, people often see it as romantic. To eat up every bit of you, which is all right. We're getting a little bit raunchy here. But instead, everything about you has devoured me, which puts it from like just a simple sexual innuendo into like the last line recontextualizes that into passion, turning into like almost like that bitter pain of love kind of deal, right? Like you're tearing my life apart by me falling in love with you kind of deal, right? And now it's romantic, and now it's poetic. I wonder what looked like to you who is collapsing into ruin, right? I feel like what that means, like it could mean two things. It could mean, I wonder what I look like to you who is collapsing into ruin, which I don't think it means. I think it means I wonder what I looked like to you while I am collapsing into ruins, right? Like me who is collapsing into ruins. That which you left me, which is collapsing into ruin, right? Like the part of me that's still left, the part of me that you haven't taken away, that's slowly collapsing because all the other parts that were there and kind of like held it up, right? The foundation, it's all crumbling apart, and only that little piece of me is left, and it's gonna crumble to the ground. You left me with such beautiful jewels, the twins who are like eternal life itself. I don't know what eternal life itself means in that sense. Is that like just a form of prose, right? Or a form of like a metaphor for the purpose of life being to procreate and to pass on to your children what you have learned, right? Like that generational thing, like the ultimate human purpose, basically. Or is it more sinister? Is it more like like he wants to eternalize himself by making the twins his life's work, right? Like, which is like, the greatest sin is to take away a person's name, right? Reclaim your name. I return your name to you. It implies that he has taken it away, right? It implies that Bonaparte, or whatever he is, has taken Anna's name away from her, right? A name can mean a lot of things, right? Her identity, her last name possibly, right? Her name in the sense of people knowing her, right? Like he's maybe taken her out of her original environment, right? Locked her in. I don't know. She looked very sad in the picture that we saw. I don't know, right? Maybe restricted her free will, right? And it's like, I return your freedom to you. I return your name to you, right? It's very vague and we don't know what it exactly means. Your name is Anna. Maybe she didn't know that name, right? Okay, it's the first name, okay, right. So it's not the last name. So it's the first name. Why has her name been taken? Has it been given to somebody else, right? Or Nina, right? Or has it... Or is it just her, like, a changed identity kind of deal where she was hidden, right? Obscured from, like, separated from her family or whatever. She had to take on another name, which I don't know, right? It's really hard. Or her memory? Is it something about like neurosurgeon and whatnot, and like she lost her memory, she's got amnesia, whatever. And he's taken that away by like, I don't know, experiments or whatever, and then it's like, he fell in love with her and he was like, damn, I need to give her back, right, that information that I know that she doesn't know. What I don't know. It's too complicated at this point in time. I'm filled with sorrow now. Filled with sorrow. Filled with sorrow. Filled with sorrow. It exists. There are many people who died in that room. And a terrifying monster was born. Like, but is the monster Johann or not? A lot of people died in that room. Okay. But it has, like, that's not just Anna, Johann, and whatever. It's people in general. How was the monster born, right? Like, what's the underlying method by which this person did kill all of these people or lost all of these people, and what did he experiment with, and what has that to do with Johann directly, and supposedly with Johann's mother as well, because she seemed to be the one who was robbed of her name in a way, right? Or was it actually Nina? But like he mentions the twins, so he can't be writing the letter to Nina/Anna. He must be writing it to their mother, right? It's really hard. And I don't know what Lunge put together. And I don't, to be fair, I don't know if we're supposed to know that, right? If this is something like where we're like, can put the pieces together, or if this is the kind of thing where it's like, oh, cliffhanger, next episode, we're gonna find out what all the information is Lunge knows, and the conclusion, how he put it together, and what the hypothesis is now. Because obviously, we could still be moving goalposts in the coming episodes and whatnot, right? There's no, like, nobody says that what Lunge the conclusion Lunge comes to is actually what's finally the real truth, like all of the truth with all of the information, right? So it could still be something different, or something like that is slightly different, right? Lunge could still be missing some information, but as far as we know so far, this is the best hypothesis maybe that we can get to, because he has the most information out of all of them. I do wonder if he has a real motivation to claim Tenma's innocence, or if he will leave that up to whoever's trying to defend him and prosecute him, and then once he has the full story and he can prove it, he comes in and he's like, okay, justice should be done. Tenma wasn't the dude. Because I don't think like that Lunge would be like in favor of imprisoning somebody who is innocent, but I think he would definitely definitely maybe accept that somebody gets imprisoned who is possibly innocent, but possibly also not, if that could in some way impact his career and his reputation and whatnot. And he would wait until he can clear his reputation and actually provide the solution before he admits that his original conclusion was wrong. Right? Yeah. Actually, I'm really in the mood to do another monster. I don't know, however, if I'm gonna do that in one sitting or if I'm gonna... I mean, I could do it in one sitting, probably. It's just really hard sometimes with like the release schedule and whatnot. So maybe I'll cut it here, and we're gonna talk next week, and then we're gonna be back for possibly a single episode, if that works well with like how the with how the episodes flow, right? Or we're gonna do a double episode, or if I like, in hindsight, if I'm like, okay, no, these 3 episodes fit together well, maybe I'll put them together, but I'm gonna record it as if it's gonna be the next week, basically, right? Because just to structure it better, right? So I have the freedom to go and post and be like, okay, these fit together well, and that's a nice like little piece, and that's how we're gonna do it. Or if I'm like, okay, no, the next 2 are also kind of heavily connected, so we could as well just do that one for next week alone or together with another one, or right? Yeah, so if you see this little last part right here, it's probably going to be next week, and I'll be seeing you next week, and if not, then we're just going to continue in a second. See you then.